Hello everyone, this is Prem Sodhani and I welcome you to the class of current affairs. This is the 5th class of current affairs and the first class of February week. This is the time when your budget is there, economic survey is also there, and that has been covered by economic faculty, that is Vivek Singh sir. On YouTube you can watch that one, and that is the beautiful analysis. And in this discussion, in this current affairs discussion, what we are going to discuss some of the important topics like delimitation in Jammu and Kashmir. What is the proposal of this delimitation commission for Jammu and Kashmir? Then Hijab issue and right to religion that is going on in the Karnataka. Also we'll talk about the local reservation of Haryana. Then we'll talk about the Prime Minister Matru Vandana Yojna and Janani Suraksha Yojna all together. Then Ramsar convention we will discuss here in detail, and global wetland outlook. Along with that, 2 new sites have been included into the list of Ramsar, and that is by the India. Then we'll also discuss about bomb cyclone and what is the difference between tropical cyclone. We are going to compare these two, and also we'll discuss Brahmos Missile, which was recently in news. We are exporting our Brahmos Missile now. Then there are some of the things which were mentioned in the budget, especially the coal gasification was talked about. Virtual asset tax is there, non-fungible tokens are there, Parvatmala Yojna is there, DeVINE scheme is there, and finally we'll talk about the SeHAT Initiative, right? So these were in the news, and let's get started without any delay. The first issue that we are going to deal is the delimitation in Jammu and Kashmir. So after scrapping 370, Article 370, state reorganization was done, and after this state reorganization, a special delimitation commission was appointed in order to redraw the constituencies. Remember, delimitation means readjusting or redrawing the boundaries of the constituency, because the population is ever changing, and for that change we need to adjust our constituencies according to that population. Okay, so this is a delimitation. Now if we talk about Jammu and Kashmir, this delimitation commission has given its second report, that is although interim, but this report talks about the Jammu Kashmir's delimitation. In this delimitation, seats have been increased in Jammu and Kashmir constituency. What is the new seats formula? The Kashmir has now 47 seats. Earlier there were 46 seats, means 1 seat has been increased as far as the state assembly is concerned. But in case of Jammu, you can see there are 6 seats have been increased in case of Jammu. Okay, so this is the case. And now the separate reservation is also provided, and this is the first time when 7 seats have been reserved for scheduled caste and 9 seats have been reserved for the STs, and primarily these STs are from Bakarwal community and Gujar community. Okay, so this is the formula. Also 1 seat have also been proposed for the Lok Sabha constituency as well. Okay, so this is the proposal of this delimitation commission. Now there is some criticism is going on in our country. Why this criticism is there, we are going to discuss that thing also. The first thing that we need to understand is what was the earlier process of delimitation in Jammu and Kashmir. So if we go to the history, so in case of Jammu and Kashmir's delimitation, in case of state assembly, the delimitation was supposed to be done with the help of this Jammu Kashmir's constitution. That is, the constitution of Jammu Kashmir will decide how many constituencies are to be there, and that was Jammu Kashmir's Representation of People Act 1957 that was governing this state constituencies redraw or its readjustment. Okay, but in case of the center, in case of the Lok Sabha seats, that is to be governed with the help of Constitution of India. Means there were 2 separate processes. Now this state is now the part of this Article 370 was scrapped, and now this state constitution is no more there, and now this readjustment was done with the help of our constitution, that is the Constitution of India. Okay, now the last delimitation in Jammu and Kashmir was on the basis of 1981 census, and after 2001 census there was also freeze on the state constituencies as well, that is till 2026. Okay, Means before 2026 you cannot adjust the constituencies, you cannot increase the number of constituencies according to the Jammu and Kashmir's constitution. This was the picture. But now the case is very different. We have scrapped Article 370. Now the Constitution of India is implemented in Jammu and Kashmir, and the process of this delimitation is now being governed with the help of Constitution of India. Now what is delimitation and what is this commission all about? The first thing that you should know about the delimitation, that is nothing but the readjustment of constituencies or the boundaries of the constituencies. And why this readjustment is done after every census? Because the population is ever changing. The second thing is the migration is also visible in the parts of the India. Means in constituency A, for example, this is the constituency A, this is the constituency B. For example, this migration is in this direction, means the positive migration is there in A compared to B. So what is going on here? The population is changing, and because this population is changing, they need their representative in constituencies, and this representative should represent a portion of population. And if this portion is increasing, means this person should also be, there should be some other person should be there in order to represent this increasing population. This is the idea of delimitation. Okay, so this delimitation is governed by Article 82, where Parliament can appoint a delimitation commission after every census. And in case of states, Article 170 says states are to be adjusted under this delimitation commission, and this is governed by Article 170. So this delimitation act is made by Parliament, but this delimitation commission is appointed by the President of India. And this delimitation act was made by Parliament many a times in 1952, in 62, 72, then after 2002. Okay, so this is the delimitation process of our constitution. Now, what is the structure of this delimitation commission? So you should remember that is the chairman is retired Supreme Court judge, then there is Chief Election Commissioner and Election Commissioner of the states. Also, there are some informal members that can be the members of the political parties of their respective constituencies. For example, MPs can be the part of this one. So that is another thing. But the structure is mainly retired Supreme Court judge, CEC, that is Chief Election Commissioner, and then Election Commissioner of the state. You should remember the orders of this delimitation commissioner has the power of the law, and that cannot be questioned into any court of the law. Means that is not only a powerful but also a independent body. Powerful, high powered and independent body. Independent body, which its order has the power of laws and they cannot be questioned into the court of the law. Then we also discussed this one, that is why delimitation is done, because I talked about this one, that is population is ever changing. Also, the migration is the process which is also changes the dynamics of the population in every constituency, and that is quite visible in case of India. Okay. Now, what are the issues which are associated in general with the delimitation? The first issue is the population control. For example, the primary criteria of this delimitation is the population. After every census, if population is increasing, the constituencies are supposed to be increased, although there is moratorium has been placed on this one. I'll tell you that one also. But the thing is the population is the main criteria. Now, if you want to represent, if you want to have more and more seats in Lok Sabha, what is the way forward? You can increase your population, and that is something which can de-incentivize the states which are otherwise controlling the population. Okay, the states which are not controlling the population will have more say in case of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, because they are to be given the seats in according to their population. So this is the mechanism which can affect the population control measures. The second thing is it will also have some financial burden. For example, we have 550 seats in Lok Sabha. If we are supposed to increase that by, for example, I'm saying 600. So this will cost additional burden on the finances of our government. Okay. So this is the second aspect. The third thing is we have fixed the seats of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha till 2026. Okay. These seats are fixed. Now population is increasing continuously, but the seats are fixed. Means, for example, earlier this representative was presenting the population, for example, I can say 1 lakh. Okay, but now this population has been increased to 2.5 lakh. Still the person is constant, means the constituency is being represented by a single person, the single MP or the MLA. So this is again the case where we are saying that these people should have the representation, but also at the one hand we are talking about that representation should be given to this additional number of the population, but the same time that is the single person is again representing them in the Lok Sabha or in the state assembly. Okay, so these are the issues with the delimitation. So we talked about this delimitation process. Remember, by 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act of 1976, the moratorium for 25 years was there on the basis of 1970 census, 1971 census. This was further by 84th Constitutional Amendment Act. This was further increased to another 25 years, means till 2026 our Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha seats were fixed. Okay, till 2026. And with the help of this 87th Constitutional Amendment Act, this census was to be 2001 census, and again the seats were fixed till 2026. Okay, so the seats are, number of seats are fixed in case of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha till 2026. This is one thing. Now if we talk about Jammu and Kashmir, we have discussed what are the proposals of this delimitation commission. We have also discussed what is the process of delimitation and what is this delimitation commission all about. What are the general issues associated with this delimitation commission. Now if we talk about the recommendation of this delimitation commission, which is made for the Jammu and Kashmir, what are the issues? The issue is, if we talk about Jammu, so Jammu has been increased with 6 seats in state legislature. This is one thing, while Kashmir has given only 1 additional seat. Okay, and if we go by the population, because population is the main criteria, so in case of Kashmir, the population is around of 68 lakh, whereas the population in Jammu and Kashmir is around somewhere 55 lakh if we take roughly. So the population is more in case of Kashmir and the representation was given more to Jammu. So this is being talked, that is nothing but the political motive is there, that is we also talked about here. This is nothing but a political motive. What is the attempt? The attempt is to give the equal status to Jammu, because the politics of Jammu is centered around somewhere in Hindus of that valley. So this is the one allegation. So the status of Jammu and Kashmir is made equal, although the population is very different. So here what this delimitation commission says, that we have taken not only the population as a criteria, but also the reachability of the region, difficult terrain, and the communication, how much it is far away from the communication technologies. It means certain other geographical factors, terrain factors, or the communication and transport factors have also been included this one. Okay, so this is the criteria, and that has been said that is nothing but the arbitrary process is there, because on the basis of these criteria this seems somewhat irrational. The third thing, the most important thing is the constitutionality of these recommendations. So this commission, this delimitation commission was made after this reorganization of this Jammu and Kashmir Act of 2019 and after the scrapping of Article 370. So Article 370 is itself challenged, and that is under Supreme Court's adjudication as of now. So if this is under the adjudication, how can some body was formed under this delimitation, under this garb of delimitation itself, because this Article 370 itself is under the adjudication. That was the case was filed in the Supreme Court of India. So this delimitation commission is itself unconstitutional according to some allegations. That is also the issue. So here we have seen the population criteria is nothing to do with this Jammu and Kashmir's assembly seats. The second, we have seen the constitutionality, because Article 370 itself was challenged, and this was made after the scrapping of this Article 370. Then we have seen the arbitrary process was there, because some difficult terrain, some communication gaps and all these things were cited by this delimitation commission. And there are nothing but the political moves where this Jammu and Kashmir has been provided almost equal status according to some of the allegations. So this was the process of delimitation. I hope this would be clear to you now. Okay, so this is about delimitation. And if we go to the second topic, this was complete. This is all over. If we go to the second topic, that is about the hijab row of Karnataka that has been politicized as of now. What is this hijab row? In case of Karnataka's UDP districts, there were some girls wearing some hijab. They were not allowed to sit in the classes because they were wearing hijab. Okay, so the question here on this hijab row is, should college spaces should be isolated from the religious practices? Means if you want to reflect your religious attire, the college places are the places that where you can display the religious attires. This is the first question. The second question is, hijab is something which is not worn by choice. By some of the arguments it has been said that is nothing but the forced because of the patriarchy. Hijab wearing is not a choice. That is nothing but the signs of patriarchy. This is the second question. The third question says, this is these two questions revolves around the action of ban. So these two questions says, yes, this ban is all right, because college spaces are not the places where religious display should be there, and hijab are not worn by the choice but by the force because of the patriarchal society. But again, the question against the state's action are, the first thing is uniformity versus diversity, because the college says this is the part of uniform where religious attire should not be there. We want uniformity, especially in educational institutions. But here once again the question comes here is, why should this uniformity should be given preference over the diversity of our country? This is the first question. The second thing is, right to education is provided to every citizen of our India, and that is the very fundamental right also. Okay, now if that is being violated only because of the appearance, so that is not something which is healthy in our country. Okay, so these two are also the question which says that the ban against this hijab is something which should not be there. Okay, so this whole controversy will revolve around these four things, and we are going to delve into this one on the basis of these four questions only. Okay, so the first thing is, what is the issue? If we talk about the issue, so it was the UDP district of Karnataka, where some of the female students were wearing this religious attire, that is nothing but the hijab. And there was also the protest by these girls, and this matter went into the High Court and then also into the NHRC as well. Now, some of the other groups, for example, Hindu students are now coming up with the saffron colors, and some blue colors are being worn by communist parties over there. Okay, those who are supporting the communist ideas. So this is how this issue is now changed to the political one. This is the background. Now, if we talk about what are the arguments given by the state government of Karnataka, or we can say the educational institutions. The first thing that Karnataka talks about, that is the legitimacy. So Karnataka Educational Act says of 2013 that is uniform of for a student is nothing for the purpose of uniformity. It is very much required. So this is the legitimate idea which Karnataka government talked about. Then if we talk about the constitutionality, so in this constitution we know that Article 25 gives everyone, that is the right to religion, that is if you profess any religion, if you propagate any religion, so that is the fundamental right of every individual. But here some regional restrictions are also mentioned in our constitution, that is for the public order, for the morality, for the health, a state can impose some restrictions. Means this right under Article 25 is not absolute one. Okay, so this is where these restrictions have been placed by Karnataka government, citing this restrictions, reasonable restrictions again. So this is the constitutionality. The third thing that it talks about, that Karnataka government says, that is nothing but the idea of secularism we are promoting, because secularism idea says that a state should make such practices where this religion should not be the influencing idea in the matters of, especially state affairs. Okay, so that is how we are promoting the idea of secularism. Means the state should separate the religion from the state affairs, or the places which are related to the public affairs, or we can say the state. Okay, so this is the argument presented by the Karnataka government. Also they talked about, also if we go by the procedure, that is if they are saying that hijab is our religious right, means that is under Article 25. So certain other sects can also demand the same thing. Means if we want to come in our religious attire, and we are seeing the example, that is saffron wearing students, so that can lead to some procedural demands also. And again, we are not the first state as per the Karnataka. There are some other states, that is in case of Kerala also we have seen that a student police cadet was supposed to wear a uniform, right? So we are not the one which are doing this for the first time. This is these were the arguments given by the Karnataka government. Now if we talk about the right to religion, especially right to religion, that says that there is freedom of conscience, practice and propagate. So this freedom has been given to each and every individual, but we have seen that there is some restrictions imposed on the basis of morality, public order and health grounds. Along with that, we can also say that is these restrictions are nothing but providing a kind of negative liberty. So what this negative liberty is, that is a state has to ensure that there is no obstruction in performing these rights. Means a state has to ensure that thing, that a person or the individual have a freedom, that is a zone of freedom, especially in the matters of this right to religion. So this forms a right that is nothing but negative liberty. Okay, but we have seen that there are certain grounds, that is morality, public order, health is there, and state's interest can also be there. So there are some reasonable restrictions also. So if now we want to dwell into the matter, means we need to check the constitutionality, and if we go by the constitutionality, so let me clear here with case of the Supreme Court, right? So in case of Supreme Court, a very famous case is there, that is Shirur Mutt case of 1954. And here Supreme Court came up with the idea, that is the essential practices of our religion, that is nothing but a doctrine of essential practices. The idea of doctrine of essential practices to religion came up with this case. And in this case, if you want to determine that what is religious in nature, what is to be allowed, what is to be banned, you must know what is the essential thing, or we can say the fundamental practices to that religion, right? So this is to be determined with the help of court, and how they are going to determine, they can take the determination can be with the help of spiritual leaders or their religious texts. Means now one thing is clear, that state can also interfere into the matters of religion, but what type of reforms and up to what extent these reforms can be implemented, that is to be decided with the help of the court, and that is the judiciary. And how this judiciary is going to determine that one? With the help of this doctrine of essential practices. Now you should understand the court is something which is going into the theosophical ideas or the space, means where they will decide the matter that is the part of that religion, that is the fundamental part of this religion or not. This is all about this doctrine of essential practices. And here you can see there was application. This doctrine was also applied. There are two cases, famous cases, that is the case of 2004 where this Anand sect was there, and this Anand sect was denied to do Tandav dance, especially in the public street, and it was said this dance performance, that is Tandav dance performance, is not the essential practice or the fundamental practice of your religion or your sect, and that is why that was banned. So this was the application of this doctrine of essential practices of the religion. The second application we have seen in the case of 2016 where Indian Air Force personnel that was keeping a beard was not allowed to keep beard, because beard was said that is not the essential practice of the religion of Islam. Okay, so we have seen there were some cases where this doctrine was as well applied. Okay, so now this case will also to be decided with the help of this reason and with the help of this constitutionality, or we can say the practice of essential doctrine can also be there with the help of the court. This is a separate thing, but this is with the court, that is with the Supreme Court. Now if we go by some of the other court's order, we have some of the cases. In case of High Court, if we see, so let me discuss here in case of the High Court. So there are famous cases. The first case is the case with High Court. The first case is that is the case of 2015, and this case was with the medical entrance exam. Medical entrance exam where hijab wearing students were not allowed by the medical entrance exam or the institution, and here High Court said that it should not violate the individual's right, that is institution should not violate individual's right, but they should make some additional arrangements in order to check them properly if they are wearing hijab. This is the one case. The second famous case is that is case 2, and this case was of Amna bint Bashir case. So in this one, hijab was said by this High Court of Kerala that hijab is the part of essential practice under this judgment. Okay, Amna bint Bashir case. And the third case is there again, that is Fatima Tasneem case. Fatima Tasneem case of 2018. So again in this case, what this court bench said, that is the collective rights of institution should be given primacy over the individual right of religion. Okay, means the institution's right were given preference under this Fatima Tasneem case, and whereas we can see in 2015, or in this case that is Amna bint Bashir case, it was hijab, where hijab was given, that is this is the part of essential practices. So again you can say you can see here that this practice is very subjective and it depends on the judge, means how they are actually deciphering, or how they are going to the logics, and how their reasoning is all about with the related to these cases. So again, if the court is something which is to decide the matters of this constitutionality, the matters of this essential practices of the religion, so that is the one thing that is very subjective. Okay, so these were the cases which we have seen that could be the subjective nature of this practice of this essential practices of the religion could be one thing. Now, if we talk about what are the arguments which says this ban is not healthy as far as our unity is concerned, as far as our diversity is concerned. So there are some arguments which talks about that one. That is Article 19. This is nothing but the violation of Article 19, because the freedom of expression is guaranteed to every citizen, and this was also said, that is Tinker versus Des Moines case of 1969, that is clothing is nothing but the form of expression. Means anybody who wants to wear a cloth, that is nothing but the freedom of expression, and that should not be violated. So this is the violation of Article 19 as far as Tinker versus Des Moines case is concerned. Again, this goes against Article 25, that is freedom to profess and practice and propagate the religion. Also, if we see some of the important instances globally also, so in Canada there was a case, that is Multani case of 2006, where the Sikhs were allowed, Sikh community people were allowed with their kirpan. There was also a case, that is Bijoy Emmanuel versus State of Kerala in 1986, where this sect was given the exception that they should not stand in case of national anthem, because this goes against their religious idea. So there are certain instances that talks about that it goes to against this Article 25 as well. Now, if we talk about this Shirur Mutt case, we have talked about this Shirur Mutt case that is to be decided with the help of this essential doctrine of this religion. We have seen that Tandava was banned in the streets and Beard was also banned in case of armed forces. So that is to be decided by this Shirur Mutt case. But here what is important, that is we have seen that there was some discrepancy between two judgments, that is Amna bint Bashir case and Fatima case, where this subjective nature of the question was to be dealt by this by the judges, and that is very subjective in nature. But here we can also talk about that the positive idea of secularism which we have adopted, that is very much different from the idea of secularism in France. So in France, that state is to be kept aloof from the religious ideas completely. But in case of India, a state cannot be isolated from the religion, but we can also implement some of the reforms in the religion, and religion is not totally isolated from the affairs of the state. That is our idea of secularism. So this goes against the idea of secularism as well if you are going to ban this hijab practice. Okay, so these are the arguments which goes against that one. But once again we'll say, if we'll come to the way forward, what we are going to discuss here is the first thing that you should remember. You can also cite this example of very famous judgment, that is SR Bomai versus Union of India 1994. Here this court says that is religious freedom is a hallmark for pluralism and inclusivity, and it also advances harmony and diversity against uniformity. So according to this SR Bomai case also, religious freedom is something which is the part of our inclusive society, and that gives due representation to the diversity, that is the vast diversity of India. Okay, so this is one thing. The second thing that we should remember, that there should have, if there are some legitimate restrictions, okay, so that is perfectly fine. But if there are some motivated intrusions, or we can say there are some reasonable accommodations are not there. For example, if we say headscarf versus veil, if we compare about that thing, if some teacher is there and if he is teaching and he want to notice the facial expression of the student, so if she is wearing veil, so that is goes against that one, and teacher can say please remove this veil. That is up to some understanding, it is okay. But if something is wearing only headscarf, teacher can easily see the facial expression as well. So this is not legitimate, if we can say. So this reasonable accommodation should be there, reasonable restrictions should be there. There should not be some motivated intrusions especially, and state should be free from the religious affinity. It should not promote one sect against the other. That is the duty of the state. And what last some line if we talk about, that is the idea of fundamental right is intended to enhance the level of tolerance and mutual respect among the people. It is not against anybody others individual freedom or individual's right. That always promotes the idea of tolerance and mutual respect in the society. So we should go by these ideas. We should go and we should come up with the modernity and rationality. If these restrictions are motivated one, they should not be there. The practices of this type should be the hallmark for the advancement of the harmony and diversity, and that goes against the uniformity. Okay, so keeping all these ideas in mind, you can write your answer in this way. Okay, so this was the all issue of this hijab, and that this matter is yet to be decided by the court. Once it would be decided, we will again discuss this idea in our next lectures. Okay, now the third topic is the local reservation issue of Haryana. So what is the news? There was a stay was imposed by the court on this local reservation of Haryana. What is this local reservation? We will go into that one. But the first thing that we should notice here is what was this local reservation all about? This was given to the individuals of Haryana, especially those who have the domicile of Haryana, in the matters of private jobs. Okay, this was given into the matters of private jobs. So this idea of reservation is very different with this idea of reservation which we have adopted, and that reservation idea is in the public employments, is provided in the public employments, whereas this idea of reservation of Haryana is in in private employment. So this is one difference, right? The second thing is, this is not the new case with the Haryana. Earlier also we have seen some of the attempts, especially if we talk about the Andhra Pradesh. So they also did the same thing with the help of Andhra Pradesh Employment of Local Candidates Act of 2019. They also provided 3/4 reservation to the local residents of Andhra Pradesh. Okay, and here we also have seen that a Haryana State Employment of Local Candidate Act was made in 2020. Now the stay is imposed on this act of Haryana. Okay, so this is about the news. What are the issues? We'll discuss that thing also, but first let me discuss here what was actually the extent of this reservation in case of Haryana. The first thing is, that is 75% was the criteria, means around 75% of the jobs were supposed to be given to the local residents, but here some of the conditions were there. If the company has more than 10 people, then only this reservation will be applied there, and these reservations should be provided when the salary of the employee is supposed to be less than 30,000 rupees. Okay, so less than 30,000 rupees jobs will have the 75% reservation for the local of Haryana. Okay, if we talk about what are the companies that are covered under this reservation, that is companies, societies, trust, and local limited liability companies are also under this act of reservation. If there is one online portal register is also made in order to ensure this reservation is provided to the local youth. Okay, so this was the local idea of local reservation. But here you have to remember, this idea was had some exemptions, that is central and state government jobs were not for this reservation. Only in case of private companies it was there. There is to be, in order to ensure this implementation, there should be a quarterly report to be filed on the portal, and there should be an officer which will ensure this is being implemented. If there is no implementation from any company, there is the provisions of fine, that is up to 2 lakh rupees, starting from 10k up to 2 lakh rupees fine would be there. So this is the local first policy was being preached by this act of Haryana government. Now if we talk about the regions, what were the regions given by the Haryana government, why they are doing this type of the arrangements for the local people? So what are the regions given by the government? The first thing is to empower the local youth, to provide them the employment opportunity. The second thing was, that is the insufficient government jobs. Means government cannot create that much of the jobs for the local people or for the purpose of employment. So this is the idea where private jobs have been provided with the reservation. The third thing that you can understand what is the rationale behind this decision, that is private sector, according to the government, private sector also uses public infrastructure. And if they are using public infrastructure, for example, land has been provided to them, some certain subsidies are there, certain tax exemptions are being provided to these companies. So they are using public infrastructure, and here is why we are providing this type of the provisions as they are using public infrastructure as well. The fourth thing that you can understand is, in case of Supreme Court's verdict, this education, in case of educational institutions, local candidates have given some preferences, and as this was the matter of education, it was allowed by the Supreme Court. What these states think, that this idea of reservation in case of employment will also be passed by the Supreme Court or by the courts. Okay, so this is the fourth thing. The fifth thing, if we talk about the global practices, so in case of global practices also, there is a US Civil Right Act of 1964 that also has the same provisions, where locals have been given the preferences in case of the employment. And in case of Canada also, if you see, there is Employment Equity Act, which gives the preference to the local minorities in the matters of employment. Okay, so these are the rationales behind the move of the government, that is of the providing locals with the reservation in case of the private companies. So these are all the motives. Now, what is the constitutional provisions? If we talk about the constitutional provisions about this reservation and all, the first thing that you need to remember here is, that is Article 16. If we talk about Article 16, Clause 1, so that talks about equal opportunities to be provided to each and every individuals, that is the citizen of India, in case of the public employment. Whereas Article 16(2) says that nobody should be discriminated only on the basis of race, religion, sex, caste and birthplace. Okay, so this birthplace discrimination is not allowed in case of the public employment. If we talk about Article 16 Clause 3, so that talks about that residence can be the criteria in case of the public employment, but that is to be decided by the Parliament of India, not by the state legislature. Okay, so this residence criteria is to be determined by the Parliament, even for any state. Okay, so Parliament is the authority when it comes to the residence criteria in case of the employment. And here we can remember, that is Article 371D, that provides a special status to the state of Andhra Pradesh, where residence criteria was allowed, and that was allowed with the help of Parliament, and that forms the Article 371D. Okay, so this is the constitutionality. So here you can see two things, that is, first thing is, this birthplace criteria is not allowed in case of public employment as well. The second thing that you can notice here, that is under Article 16 Clause 3, it talks about the residence criteria, but it is the Parliament who is supposed to make such arrangements in case of the state employment also, and that is to be in the public employment. Okay, so this is the constitutionality if we talked about. Now if we go by the Supreme Court's judgments, so in case of Supreme Court judgment, here you can remember, this was the Pradeep Kumar Jain case versus Union of India. Dr. Pradeep Jain case versus Union of India of 1984, where son of soil doctrine was held unconstitutional by Supreme Court India. Again, the second case was there, that is Sunanda Reddy case versus state of Andhra. Again, the same doctrine was highlighted, means son of soil doctrine, that is local should not be given the preferences, and if they were given preferences by the state, that was held unconstitutional by the Supreme Court of India. So you can understand that one with the help of these two judgments. And the application, if we talk about the application, so in case of Rajasthan, there was appointment of teacher was cancelled in 2002 on the basis of these two cases, or the son of soil doctrine was quashed by the Supreme Court of India, and that was seen in case of the Rajasthan's appointment of teachers in 2002. And more recently, in case of 2019, in case of UP's state services, there was some preferences were provided to the local women. So that was also quashed by the court and on the basis of these judgments. So Supreme Court's stand is very clear, that is son of soil doctrine, that is local should not be given the preferences, and if they are given the preference, that is something which is unconstitutional one. Okay, so now what are the concerns which are associated with this local reservation? We'll talk about this written concerns also. Let me discuss here what are the concerns. The first thing is the concerns. The first concern is as the pandemic is going on there, the economic was facing some of the issues, some hurdles because of this pandemic. So what we need is the fast recovery. But what we are actually doing, we are delaying the recovery as we are putting some restrictions on the labor movement. So that will definitely going to impact the recovery period, which is very much needed in this time. Okay, so the first thing is the late recovery would be there for the economy. Late recovery would be there for the economy. The second thing is we are actually putting restrictions on the investment, means the investment which is to be which is supposed to come in India, that is definitely going to be hampered because of these type of restrictive policies. The third thing that you can notice here is the shortage of quality labor would also be there, because if some company wants to have some quality labor, so but because of these restrictions of 75% reservation, they cannot go for that quality. So that is also one case. The other thing, that is it goes against the provisions of unity in case of our India. If we want to promote the unity, we should not restrict these states for this this labor movement should not be restricted. It goes against the idea of unity, very unity. Then it is also against the constitutional provisions. So if we talk about this article 14, that says that there should be equality before law, equality before law. So what these states are doing, they are actually giving preference to local people compared to the other which are not the local one. So this is nothing but the breach of article 14, that is equality before law. Again, this goes against the article 19(1)(g) that talks about to reside in any part of the India and to have the rights of employment. So that is again being violated. Also the right of employer, that is to have any individual in their employment, so they should have that freedom to employ anyone, but again there are some restrictions. It also goes against to the provision of article 16(3), where we have seen this is the parliament who is to decide whether this residence criteria should be there in case of state matters or not. And again, this is to be in the public employment, not in the private employment. So this again goes against the article 16(3) as well. And last but not least, this is against the 50% criteria, maximum reservation criteria. Under Mandal Commission, we have seen this 50% of reservation criteria is being breached by providing them 75% of the reservation under these local employment acts. Okay, so these are the provisions which talks about that this should not be the case. Again, if we go by this written one, so we have discussed there are some issues, that is economic issues can be there, because that puts embargo or that puts some restrictions on the skills and flexibility of the companies. Again, investment will be hampered, and we are seeing that most of the investment compared to the India is being diverted towards the African countries. So this again can increase. This is against the fundamental right of employer. means their Article 19 is being violated. We have seen that one. This goes against the federal structure, that is we are promoting localization. This is nothing but a class legislation where we are promoting one class, that is the local residents compared to the others. Okay. So localized protectionism is the practice which is being done here. Son of soil doctrine is being promoted, and according to the Supreme Court, that will definitely fragment our country into the parts. That is not good for the unity of the India. That could have, this labor movement would be definitely restricted, and that would have some domino effect in other states as well. So MP could have come up with their own idea of local reservation. Maharashtra can follow the same practice. Andhra Pradesh has already its law, although it is challenged in the court, but still it has its own law. So this type of the provisions are not healthy as far as labor movement is concerned, because if you see this UP and Bihar, they have labor surplus, and that is supposed to move in other areas where the labor deficit is there. But now if you are putting restrictions on this movement, that is not going to be healthy as far as our country's unity is concerned, as far as our economic recovery is concerned. So this idea is not healthy at all. Okay, so these are the reasons. But if we talk about, we have discussed what are the provisions, we have discussed what are the arguments given by the state governments to provide such type of the mechanisms. We have seen why it is against the constitutional provisions, and we have seen all the concerns. Okay, now if we talk about what is the reason why such type of the acts are there. It was Andhra Pradesh who came up with this act. It is now Haryana is there with this act. So the basic cause is the rising unemployment, and it is the inability of the state governments to produce enough public employment opportunities for the people, and that is the reason why they are coming up with the idea, this type of idea. So actually the root cause is the unemployment, but what we are doing, we are having such type of random solutions. So we are not addressing the root cause, we are actually treating the symptoms, not the disease. So what we should do, we have to put some restrictions on rising unemployment. We have to create some opportunities, and if you want to employ these local youths in such companies, you need to provide them some skills. A skill set should be provided to them so that they should have this capability to get that employment opportunity. Okay, so state should provide such type of the skill sets to the local citizens or the local youth, and incentives should be provided to these industries to provide such type of the skills to the people, or such type of the incentives should be provided so that they can adopt some of the voluntary practices to keep some local youth in their company. Okay, so this type of the mechanism should be there. So what we need to do is we need to deal with the root cause. We need to attract the investment in order to have a better recovery after especially this pandemic. So we need to do that thing, and if this type of the practices would be there, that is definitely going to be followed by some other states, that is Maharashtra, MP and other states as well. Okay, so that should not be the practices. So what is the main solution? The solution is provide them skill sets, provide them the employment opportunity, provide the companies enough freedom, that is the voluntary actions to provide the local opportunities can be there from the company side. That should be the case of this local reservation. Okay, so this was all about this local reservation. Now we come to the next topic, that is the Ramsar Convention, because on the International Wetland Day, this 2nd February, we have also got two other sites in Ramsar list, that is Hijab of Jamnagar, Gujarat, and the Bakhira Wildlife Sanctuary of UP have been added into this list of Ramsar sites. So here we'll talk about what is this Ramsar Convention, what are these wetlands, why these wetlands are important as far as this diversity is concerned, as far as people which are who are associated with this wetland ecosystem services, why these are important, and then we'll also discuss about these two, Khizadia and Bakhira Wildlife Sanctuary. Now India has total 49 sites under Ramsar sites, and these are highest in case of South Asia. Okay, so if we talk about what is the wetland, so wetlands are which are generally waterlogged. Okay, that is can be continuously for 7 days, or in between that one, means what is the basic idea? There should be hydric soil, means which is continuously wet one, and it is having some type of moisture in it. Okay, so this is wetland. So this should adopt the plant life, that is hydrophyte should be there. Means if you see this one, this is having this hydrophytes in this one. You can see this one, this is hydrophytes, and they should have hydric soils, means there should not be enough oxygen. There is some kind of lack of oxygen should be there in case of wetlands. So this is the basic idea of wetlands. So they should remain, if it's say permanently underwater, or we can say seasonal under the water. So they come under the definition of wetland. So wetland can be of any type, natural can be there, man-made can be there. In case of coastal wetlands, you can see mangroves are there, okay, estuaries are there. Aquaculture practices of human being also form the part of wetland. So these are the example of wetlands. So this is wetland. Now what is the importance of this wetland? So if we talk about the importance of wetland, so that can be highlighted by this one, that is Global Wetland Outlook, which was prepared by this Ramsar under this Ramsar Convention of 1971. So under this Global Wetland Outlook, it was talked about that is mangrove, which is a kind of wetland, has the carbon sequestration capacity, and that is 55 times more than that is of tropical rainforest. Means they can absorb the CO2 much faster rate, at much faster rate compared to the tropical rainforest also. This is the one thing. The second thing is they also provide directly or indirectly employment opportunities to the 4 billion people of globally. Okay. Then again, the ecosystem services, the services of these wetlands were said that is of $47.4 trillion in a year is being provided by these wetlands. Again, what is the threat to these ecosystem? That is the wetland ecosystem, that is they are disappearing at a very faster rate, that is 3 times faster than the forest, and agriculture is the most important factor which is eliminating these wetlands at a very faster rate. More than half of the wetlands that were of international importance were vanished because of the agricultural practices. So agriculture is the main threat to this wetland ecosystem. You can remember that one. Okay, so this is the importance of this ecosystem. Further, if we talk about the other importance of this ecosystem, that is they act as a barrier to disasters. If we talk about the mangroves, so in case of tsunami, we have seen that one, because of these mangroves on shore, this disaster of tsunami was controlled somewhere. Okay, so this is the protection is provided in case of the natural disaster. The second thing is the diversity, because of the diversity around these mangrove areas, around these wetlands, so they are very diverse in nature. Again, they are the source of filtration, nutrient cycling is continuously there, nutrient cycling is there. So they acts as a nutrient cycler also, they acts as a filtration mechanism also. The water percolates down to the earth, and that is the reason why water tables being recharged with the help of these wetlands. So they are very, very important. They provide these type of the services we have seen, employment opportunities we have seen, they have enough diversity, filtration mechanism is there, nutrient cycling is the one aspect, and they also provides the protection against the natural disasters. Now if we talk about the Ramsar Convention, so remember this is an intergovernmental treaty and not the part of UN body. Okay, so this is an intergovernmental treaty, and this is the only intergovernmental treaty which is focused on a particular ecosystem. So this ecosystem is nothing but wetland. What is the definition of ecosystem? That is the basic and structural unit of any biome where living and non-living things interacts with each other. Okay, where life exists, where living and non-living things interact with each other. So this is the basic and structural unit, you have to remember that one. So it was signed in 1971, but it came into the force on 1975. This was the date, that is 2nd February 1971 was the date when this treaty was signed, and here this 2nd February is also celebrated as an International Wetland Day also. Okay. Now, what is the decision making body here? That is the Conference of Parties, and this meets every 3 years at least, and this is the body which forms the policies, which talks about the various measures which are to be implemented by these countries. So this is the highest decision making body of Ramsar Convention. Now, if we talk about the Ramsar Convention, the main principle behind this convention is the wise use of wetlands. This is the main idea of this convention. Okay, so if we talk about the pillars, that is, there are 3 key pillars of this convention. The first pillar is wise use of the wetlands. This is definitely the aim of this wetland. The second thing is the Ramsar list. In this list, what is to be there? Every country which is the signatory of this Ramsar Convention has to provide at least one wetland in this list, so that international cooperation can be provided to that country on this wetland. Okay, so at least one wetland is to be there in Ramsar list. Okay, so remember, in case of Ramsar Convention, it is the international cooperation, but national action is to be there. Means wetland is the property of this particular nation only, but international cooperation would be provided to them. Data sharing, the best practices sharing, the visits, R&D, and all type of other supports would be provided to this country on this matter of international wetlands. Okay, so this is Ramsar list. The international cooperation would be provided especially in the wetlands which are having the transboundary type of the boundaries. For example, if any wetland which is shared with between these two countries, that is India and Bangladesh. Okay, so this international cooperation would be there in the matter of this transboundary wetland as well. Okay, and the most important thing under this Ramsar list is this Montreux record. So under this Ramsar list, this Montreux record talks about, that is, the wetlands in this list which are included. The criteria is the wetlands which are facing some type of ecological threat or some type of ecological changes are occurred or are going to occur, or they are occurring continuously, so they will fall under this Montreux record. And these regions, that is of ecological change, can be of any type. Means, for example, this can be of natural. For example, we can say siltation is going on. For example, that can be anthropological, means man-made, we can say, because of man-made practices that can have the ecological changes. We can also say these ecological changes can be because of the technology or in the industry. So if there is this ecological changes there, that is to be that is supposed to be the part of this Montreux list, and this Montreux list is nothing but the part of Ramsar list. Okay, so India, in case of India, we have two sites. That is, the first is Kevladev Lake of Bharatpur, Rajasthan, and the second one is Loktak Lake of Manipur. Loktak Lake of Manipur. So these two sites are the part of this Montreux list. Means there are some ecological changes which have been occurred or are occurring or are going to occur. So they are the part of this Montreux list. Earlier, Chulika Lake was also the part of this Montreux lake, but because of the best conservation practices, this came out of this list of Montreux record. Okay, so this is about the Ramsar Convention. Now, if we talk about the status of India in case of wetland, you can remember 4.63% of area of India is under the wetlands. And if we go by the states, the state-wise, the Gujarat is at first position in case of the wetland area. 17.5, around 17.5% of Gujarat's area under wetland. In case of India, that is 22.5% of India's wetlands are in Gujarat. Okay, the second state is Andhra Pradesh, the third is Uttar Pradesh, and the fourth position is of West Bengal. Remember this one because this is the favorite area of UPSC. In case of the wetlands, every year or the other, these questions are being asked by the UPSC. So remember this one. Gujarat is having the most of the part under wetland. It is having 17.5% around of its part under wetland, and in case of India, that is 22.5% of India's wetland are under Gujarat. Now, if we talk about the two new sites, that is the 49th site, that is Khijadiya of Jamnagar, Gujarat. If we go by the map, you can see here, this is the Khijadiya Bird Sanctuary. This has been provided the Ramsar list status. If we talk about this one, that is a freshwater wetland. This is one thing, and this is the biggest bird sanctuary of the Gujarat. Okay, and here you can remember the river is there. That is Rupa Rail River is also there in case of this Khijadiya Birdlife Sanctuary. What is the important flora and fauna is found here is you can remember this black-necked stork. They are only found in this sanctuary in case of India. Nowhere else these black-necked stork are found in case of India. Okay, and you can also remember, if you can, but otherwise not required, endangered pala fish eagle is found here, common pochard, Dalmatian pelican, they are also found in this sanctuary. Okay, the second sanctuary which has been given the status of Ramsar list, that is the Bakhira of Uttar Pradesh. That was the 48th site. So total India has now 49 sites under Ramsar Convention. This is a wintering and staging ground for migratory waterfowls, migratory birds, and this also provides a breeding ground to the resident birds, especially of India. These are having certain farming activities are also there in the adjacent area, because this is the part of this Bakhira canal is connected with this Bakhira Wildlife Sanctuary. And here the endangered Egyptian vulture is also found in this area. And you can remember, if you can, vulnerable like greater spotted eagle is there, common pochard is also found in this area. Okay, so if we talk about the areas, the countries which are having the maximum sites under Ramsar list, the first country is UK. It has almost 175 plus sites. Then it is the Mexico in case of number of sites. In case of area, that is the Bolivia. Bolivia is at the first position. Okay, so this is all about the Ramsar Convention. You can remember there are the three important aspects of this convention we have seen. In case of Ramsar list, every country has to provide at least one site of this wetland, and in case of Montreux list, the important wetlands which are facing some type of ecological threat, they are to be kept under this Montreux list. Again, we have seen there are two important sites of India under this Montreux list, that is this is Loktak Lake of Manipur and Kevladev Lake of Bharatpur, Rajasthan. Okay, if we talk about this convention, there are also 5 internationally recognized NGOs which were given the preference over this treaty. They are supposed to help in implementation of this treaty. So these are international organizations, international organization partners. If you can remember, that is the first one is BirdLife International, then IUCN, this is the second. The third is International Water Management Institute. The fourth one is Wetland International, and the last World Wildlife Fund. Okay, so these 5 are the IOPs. Status have been provided to these 5 institutions which are helpful, which are going to help in the implementation of this wetlands and all. Okay, so this was all about the wetlands. Moving ahead with the next topic, that is bomb cyclone. What is this bomb cyclone? The first thing that you should notice is the location where this type of bomb cyclones are occurring. Then we'll dwell into the concept what this bomb cyclone is. The area that you should notice, that is the this coast of America. That is the east coast of this America is facing the bomb cyclones. This formation of bombogenesis is going on there. What is this bomb cyclone that you can remember? That is nothing but the explosive cyclogenesis. That is the cyclone formation is being there, and that is very explosive in nature. Okay, and this is the area where this bomb cyclones are being made or being developed. Okay, so this is a kind of extra tropical cyclone only, with having low pressure in the middle of this cyclone. Okay, so this is predominantly maritime in nature, and this is formed in case of this winter event, and also occurs sometimes in the summer but not very often. Okay, so this is bomb cyclone. But first let me talk about this cyclone. What is cyclone? So if we go by the cyclone, what is cyclone? The cyclone is having the intensive low pressure area in between. What is the property of low pressure area? That attracts the winds from the high pressure areas. Okay, so in case of the cyclone formation, what you need to remember is there are certain conditions which are required for the cyclone formation. The first condition should be there should have the temperature of 27 degrees centigrade at least. Means more than that is required, but at least 27 degree centigrade temperature should be there. The second thing is the ITCZ should be there. They generally formed over the low pressure areas. Okay, and there should be some Coriolis force. Coriolis force should be there. So, and high pressure conditions over the upper atmosphere are very much required. Upper atmosphere. Okay, and they are generally formed, if I talk about the tropical cyclone, they form over the tropical areas and over the oceans generally. Okay, so these are the conditions which are required for the formation of tropical cyclones. Now if we talk about the in case of India, if we go by the map, so this is Bay of Bengal. So in case of the summers, late summers, the temperature of this ocean would be somewhere that is greater than 27 degrees centigrade, and this is the ideal situation when this formation of the cyclone can take place. This is the one thing. The second thing is this intertropical convergence zone. If you go by the apparent motion of the sun, so this apparent motion of the sun in the northern hemisphere is there in case of summers in India. So in case of the summers, this ITCZ, that is otherwise the area of 0 degree, that is the tropical area, that is the equator area. This ITCZ is nothing but intense low pressure zone area it is, and here this is the intertropical convergence zone, means the winds from the both of the sides will be there, and because of this low pressure and the temperature conditions here, they will be lifted up. Okay, and this would be the silent zone, this would be the ITCZ zone. ITCZ zone that would have intense low pressure conditions. Okay, that you have to remember. In case of the summers, this ITCZ moves toward the north, and this ITCZ should be somewhere here in case of the summers in India, late summers. Okay, so this is the ITCZ. Now what is the property of ITCZ is this is the low pressure area, and low pressure is the key demand of cyclone formation. So in this low pressure area there would be winds around there, and because of these winds over the oceans area they are coming, they will have some moisture content in them. Okay, so moisture content would also be there. So this is the one thing that you have to understand. This is the low pressure area. The ITCZ over the ocean is very much required, and because of this ITCZ, winds will be there from across the directions, and because of the impact of Coriolis force. Coriolis force is nothing but the force because of the rotation of the earth. Okay, and that force is 0 on the equator, and that is the reason why cyclone formation is negligible in case of the equatorial regions, that you can remember for your prelims point of view. So ITCZ is here, low pressure conditions are there, winds are coming from across the directions, and because of the Coriolis forces, these winds will be deflected into a rotatory motion. Okay, and because of this rotatory motion, this cyclone will have anti-clockwise direction in case of the northern hemisphere and clockwise direction in case of the southern hemisphere. Okay, so these are the conditions, some of the conditions. Now what you have understood, that is the temperature of 27 degrees centigrade is required. Late summer is the ideal period because water warms slowly. After the summer it will have some temperature of 27 degrees centigrade and more. Then the region of IDCZ should be there, that is the low pressure condition should be there, and Coriolis force is required for the rotatory motion or the deflection, for the deflection of these winds. And last but not least, that is the high pressure conditions over the upper atmosphere. I'll tell you why this upper atmosphere high pressure conditions are required here. So these are the 5 conditions. Remember that one. Now let me talk about the structure of this cyclone. If I talk about the structure, for example, this is formed generally over the one more factor I'll discuss here, that is the latent heat of condensation is also required. I'll tell you what all these factors are. Let me first draw. This is the low pressure area over the oceanic area, over the water body. Suppose this is the low pressure conditions has been developed. What is the low pressure condition? Because of the temperature, the atmosphere is having very less pressure over it. Why it is having low pressure? Because the air is becoming warm, and this warm air lifts up in order to get cool, okay, gets cool. So these pockets are now lifting up, and because of this lifting up process, this pressure is being released over this area, and that is why these areas are known as low pressure areas. So remember, if temperature is increased, the air would rise, right? So air would rise, and because of this rise of air, the low pressure conditions would be there on this area. So here, if we talk about the temperature is more than 27 degrees centigrade in the late summers. The low pressure conditions are there. It means what? It means the air will come from the surrounding high pressure areas, and this air will have rotatory motion because of the Coriolis force. Okay, in northern hemisphere we have seen anti-clockwise motion would be there. In case of the southern hemisphere, the clockwise rotation would be there. So these are the winds coming from the high pressure areas into this low pressure areas that is getting deflected in rotatory motion, and this wind is rising. This air is rising over here because the temperature is high, and this is warm air, and warm air rises because in order to get itself cool. Okay, so this is one thing that you have to understand. Now let me talk about the other thing on the structure of the cyclone. So now, because this warm air is rising continuously, and this is the normal lapse rate, which says if air rises per kilometer, 6.5 degrees C temperature will be decreased. This is known as normal lapse rate, because this is the heat source. Heat source is earth. Earth is very warm, very hot, and if you are going away from the earth, the temperature would be definitely reduced, and that is 6.5 degrees C per kilometer. That is normal lapse rate. Now this will get cool, and remember, these winds were coming, these are the winds which were coming from the very far away distances, and they are coming over the oceanic region. Okay, so these are having moisture with them. Because of this this cooling, the heat will be released, and that heat would be known as latent heat of condensation. Because the condensation process is going on, the wind, that is the air, is now getting cool, and because of that cooling process, that latent heat of condensation will be released, and that is further added to this air. Now this heat is released, and again this is added into this air only. So what this heat is doing now, again increasing the temperature of this air pocket. Means this latent heat of condensation is again increasing the temperature of this air. So the temperature would be increased. Let me draw with the help of another color. So this is nothing but adding the temperature here. And as the temperature is increasing, that will definitely give rise to the low pressure conditions once again. So this temperature rise will further induce the conditions of low pressure. It means what is going on here? The low pressure is continuously getting strengthened because of this latent heat of condensation. Okay, so this this low pressure again gets a very huge one, a very low one, and this will further attracts the wind from the far away distances now. Okay, again the rise would be there, latent heat of condensation would again increase the temperature. Again, this low pressure area would be intensified, and then again this wind will be attracted from the far away distances. This is the continuous process, that is the continuous chain, and that is adding the low pressure conditions over this area. Okay, it means what? It means because of these winds, because of this latent heat of condensation, this is getting intensified with time. Okay, now if we go, if this air travels up to some distance over the atmosphere, there would be the process of condensation finally, and that will be converted into the clouds, and the possibility of rainfall would be there. Okay, now remember, because this was attracting the winds from far away of the distances, this cloud formation would be very huge in nature. Okay, this is known as cumulonimbus clouds, and this will definitely give you the rainfall over this huge area. Okay, so this area will see the rainfall, and this area again will see the rainfall. But remember, in case of low pressure, the condition is, if we talk about the low pressure area, the condition would be the air is rising, ever rising, and that would cause the conditions of instability. Instability means the possibility of rain would be there, very high. Okay, but in case of high pressure conditions, that is also known as anticyclonic conditions, the air would be coming on this high pressure area. Just remember, as of now, the high pressure areas are the areas where air would be coming and diverged, means this air would be diverged like this one. So if air has the divergence property, that means it is the high pressure area. And if this air is not diverged over the upper atmosphere, means the air is going on there, and if it is getting diverged because of that we are facing this rainfall, we are seeing this cumulonimbus cloud, and this is the reason why we can say this is the region of high pressure, because the air is now getting diverged here. The cool air is there, that is being diverged. Remember, in case of high pressure area, the cool air would be there, and that would be diverged in nature. Because of that divergence only, this much of the extent of clouds is there, and this is very much required. So what are the conditions which I have talked about? The first condition was 27 degree plus temperature. This is there. The second thing is ITCZ should be there, means the direction of the winds would be attracted because of this low pressure area, that is nothing but the ITCZ. Because of the ITCZ, the convergences would be there, the air would rise up. Because of this air rise up, the latent heat of condensation would be there, that will further add the process, and again this low pressure would be intensified. Now the winds will be attracted from the far away distances, and this process would be continuously going on, and because of that the huge rainfall would be there. But remember, this area, let me draw that one with the help of separate color. This area is having high pressure overhead, and that is very much required, because it is nothing but pulling the air upside, and this pulling of air is very much required for strengthening of cyclone. Okay, so this is a very much required condition, means high pressure over upper atmosphere is also the mandatory condition for tropical cyclones. Okay, now if we cut this supply, that is the moisture supply, because moisture is having the heat content in itself. If you will cut this supply, that is the moist wind, this whole cyclone will be occluded, means this will be the process of cyclone formation will end up. And that is the reason when this cyclone moves towards the land. So when it comes towards the land, because of this land, this wind over the land will not have a moisture content, which is the supply mechanism of the cyclone, and that is the reason why this will dissipate when it comes to the land, and that is the process which is known as landfall mechanism. So remember, moist wind is nothing but the fuel of the cyclone formation. So these are the conditions: 27 degree temperature over the oceanic areas, because this moisture content is required. Latent heat of condensation is something which is very much required. ITCZ should be there, low pressure conditions should be there, and upper atmosphere should have the high pressure conditions. These are the conditions which are required for the cyclone formation. I hope now cyclone formation would be clear in your mind. Okay, now we have seen landfall mechanism as well. The most important thing is low pressure is the key that you have to remember. This area would be rainfall free because high pressure conditions are there. This area will have these area will have rainfall, these areas will have rainfall, but this area of the center will not have any rainfall. That will be very stable, and that is the reason this is known as eye of cyclone. So this was the process of cyclone. Now coming back to the topic, that was bomb cyclone, means the condition is again cyclone only, means there would be some low pressure area only in this cyclone also. But why it is known as bomb? Because there are some that would be some ferocious activities would be there. The winds would be very high of a speed, and there would be rainfall or the precipitation which would be having some kind of extent of dangers would be there. So that is the reason why it is known as bomb cyclone. So remember, these are nothing but the cyclones only. Again, they have the low pressure areas in between, but they are known as extratropical cyclone. We have talked about the tropical cyclone. They are generally formed in the tropical areas. They need moisture content, and that therefore they originates over the large ocean bodies only, on the water bodies only. When they reach to the land, they will have the landfall mechanism, means they will be soon dissipated. Okay, this is the mechanism, tropical cyclone. Now if we talk about the extratropical cyclone, they are the cyclone which originates in the extratropical regions, in the mid latitudes, not in the tropical regions, and they will have low pressure again inside them also. They will be of maritime nature in general, and they are formed in the winter. Remember, this tropical cyclone was formed in late summers. They will be formed in winters. Now, this tropical cyclone is named by different names in different countries. For example, if we talk about the American region, they are known as hurricanes. Okay, they are nothing but the tropical cyclones only. Now if we talk about the bomb cyclone, what is the difference between bomb cyclone and what is the exact process of this bomb cyclone? So we need to understand the process of let me erase this one. So we need to understand the process of let me erase this one. So in case of bomb cyclone, the first 2-3 things that you have to remember is what is the definition. First thing is that you have to understand this is the phenomena of mid latitudes. Again, the low pressure would be there in the center. Then this is the condition, 24 millibar pressure drop in 24 hours should be there. This can further low, but this is the minimum criteria. Then again, you have to remember this is the low pressure area where the warm air would be there over this low pressure area. Warm air would be there, and somewhere from the land parts or somewhere from the other parts, the cold air will approach here over this low pressure area, over this warm air pockets. Okay, now you have to understand the phenomena of front. So what is the phenomena of front is, if there is cold air mass is there, and here somewhere it is the warm air mass. So this air mass of warm air would be lifted because this cold air mass will definitely have more weight, and because of this more weight, that will push down itself, and this will further raise this warm air into the atmosphere, and this warm air would rise, and again the same process would be there. Because of the condensation, a rainfall would always be there. Okay, would be there in this case also. So this is the process of front. Okay, so the same condition also happens in this bomb cyclone. What is the bomb cyclone? If you go by the map of this America, so in case of America, this is the region where you will see the Gulf Stream. Gulf Stream is the water body, that is the oceanic current, that is the warm ocean current actually. So because of this warm ocean current, this area is having warm air over this region. Okay, but in case of winters, as of now we can see in America what is going on. This is the Gulf water, this is the Gulf Stream, warm Gulf Stream. But in case of the air which is coming from the land, or we can say coming from here, that is very cold in nature. Again, the process is, this is the Gulf Stream, it's having warm air over this one. This is the cold air which is approaching to this low pressure area, and now again the process is same like of this front only, right? But the difference is here we have the low pressure over the water body because of this Gulf Stream. Now the cold air is approaching, and because of this cold air, this warm air will rise into the atmosphere, and that will definitely give rise to the instability conditions here. That means precipitation possibility would also be there. Okay, so what this phenomena is, this phenomena is associated with this mid latitudes of especially this area. Okay, so this is the process of bomb cyclone. What you need to remember is, this is the phenomena of mid latitude. Again, the conditions of low pressure is required, and 24 millibar drop in 24 hours is something which defines a cyclone as a bomb cyclone. Okay, now if we talk about the difference between bomb cyclone and the hurricane, that is nothing but a tropical cyclone. So what are the differences? If I talk about the differences, the first difference is in case of bomb cyclone and in case of hurricane. The first difference is the latitudes. This forms in mid latitudes, whereas we have seen this is nothing but a tropical cyclone. So this formed in the tropical areas, that is nothing but the lower latitude areas. The second difference here, it is the cold air is required. In this case of bomb cyclone, cold air is required, because this is nothing but a kind of front process. Okay, front is there, cold front is there, and warm front is there, and because of this cold front subsidence, this warm air is rising, and that is the reason why precipitation is going on here also. But in case of this hurricane or the tropical cyclones, we have seen the important source of their formation is nothing but the moisture, means the hot wind is required here, but cold air is not required in this case. That is, the hot air is required, the hot wind is required in case of the hurricanes. The third difference that is that is, they occur in winters generally. In general, we have seen that in winters only this bomb cyclones are being originated in the area of America, but we have seen these are the phenomena which occur in the late summers. Otherwise, they are of the same nature. Okay, the only thing is they have the commonalities are, they are also having low pressures in their in the between this formation. They also have the low pressure conditions. Tropical cyclones also have the same low pressure conditions in this case also. Okay, so this was all about the bomb cyclone. Just remember, this is the area of America where these are being formed. Okay, now coming back to the next topic, that is about this news, that is Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojna, that is PMMVY. Okay, why this was in news? The first thing is because of two reasons. The first reason is, this was in news because of two reasons. The first reason is there is a Mission Shakti, which is now being planned to be launched by the Ministry of Women and Child Development. Under this Mission Shakti, this PMMVY is being revamped, and in this revamping, that is being talked about that earlier this scheme was limited to the first child only. Institutional delivery of first child will be covered under this PMVY, but now the second child, if it is a girl child, this benefit will also be extended if the second child is a girl child. Okay, means the girl childs are being promoted under this revamping of this Prime Minister Matru Vandana Yojna. This is one thing why it was in news. The second thing why it was in news, because earlier the written consent of her and her husband was required. Aadhaar card of his husband was required in order to avail the benefit. Now, what about the abandoned mothers, where the husband has abandoned her wife or his wife? So, what about that wife? So, that was not covered under this Prime Minister Matru Vandana Yojna earlier, but now this is also being talked about that this written consent is not required. Also, the Aadhaar card of his husband, her husband, is not required under this scheme. So what this scheme is all about, we have seen why it was in news. Now if we talk about why what is this scheme is all about, the first thing that you should know, this is a maternity benefit program. Means if some women is giving is a pregnant one, and if it is giving birth to a child after the period of this 1st January 2017, they will be provided, these women will be provided the cash incentive, cash support of 5,000 rupees and 1,000 rupees under Janani Sishu Suraksha Yojna. So in total they will get the benefit of 6,000 rupees for the first child's delivery. Okay, only if one child is covered. Now we are planning to extend to the second child. If it is a girl child, that is a separate case. The second thing is, this scheme came into the picture on 1st January 2017. This is a centrally sponsored scheme. This is one thing, and the Women and Child Ministry, Child Development Ministry is implementing this scheme. This is a direct benefit transfer scheme where the additional nutritional needs are being fulfilled with the help of this 6,000 rupees amount. Also, this is also a kind of compensation for the wage losses that are going to be there in order to give the birth to the child. So this is partially compensating the wage losses. And remember, all the women, those who are pregnant and lactating mothers, are covered under this target beneficiary group. The only condition is they should not be the employee of central government or state government, because they have separate mechanism of monetary benefits and they have maternity leaves also. So they will not have, there is no requirement of this type of the schemes for these especially. And if they are being provided any maternity incentives under any other state or central law, if they are already covered, they are not the eligible one under this scheme. So what you have to remember is, all the pregnant women and lactating mothers are the eligible beneficiaries under this one. The only exception is central government, state government employees are not covered. Now this was all about for the first child, and this first child is supposed to be this woman is supposed to give the birth of this to this first child after 1st January 2017. This was the Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojna. What is this one? This is having the cash component we have seen, that was the maternity benefit was there of 5,000 rupees we have seen, but this is a conditional cash transfer scheme. Conditional means some conditions are there already on this cash benefit. If you will provide, if you will fulfill these conditions, then only this benefit would be provided to you. These are 3 conditions primarily. 3 conditions are there. The first is pre-registration of the child. Pre-registration of the child. Then all antenatal checkups. You have to go through all antenatal checkups before delivery, and then finally after delivery, the registration of child. Registration of child plus completing the vaccine cycle. Vaccine cycle for the child. These are the 3 conditions. If you will meet these 3 conditions, the benefit of 5,000 rupees will be provided to the beneficiary. Okay, this is the amount that is to be provided to the beneficiary. Also, along with that, Janani Sishu Suraksha Yojna, which came into the picture in 2005 only, that is the aim of this scheme, that is of Janani Suraksha Yojna, was to reduce the MMR, that is maternal mortality rate, and to reduce the IMR, that is infant mortality rate in our country. So that is to reduce this one. What is required? The institutional deliveries are to be there. Institutional deliveries are to be there. Right? This was 100% centrally sponsored scheme. Okay. And then what you can remember is the main aim was to provide safe motherhood. It was a kind of maternity intervention scheme. So in this one, institutional deliveries were the something which was focused upon, and for that institutional deliveries, especially in rural areas, we have seen rural areas have very low institutional deliveries. means if somebody is not giving birth to the child in hospitals and accredited hospitals, that is not considered institutional deliveries, and that is very common in rural areas. So to promote these deliveries, institutional deliveries, ASHAs, that is accredited social health associates, so they were provided activists, so they were also provided some incentives if they are working in this direction. So ASHAs were also provided some incentives. This women which belongs to the rural area or the urban area also, they were also provided the cash incentives of on an average of 1000 rupees. Okay, so under this scheme 1000 rupees will also be added to under this one, Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojna. So total benefit of 6000 would be given to the women, okay, in terms of DBT, that is direct benefit transfer. So this was all about this scheme. Why it was in news? Because we have seen that is supposed to be extended to the second child if it is a girl child, and there is no requirement of Aadhaar card, remember this one, or the written consent of husband, that is also not required. Now coming to the next topic, that is Brahmos Missile. This was in news because of some reasons. The first reason is we are now actually exporting. We are now actually exporting this missile, Brahmos missile, to the Philippines. Philippines is acquiring these missiles from India because of the ongoing tensions between China and Philippines are always there in the South China Sea. So this is the reason why this Brahmos missile is in news. Brahmos missile is nothing but the cooperation between India and Russia. So this name comes from the Brahmaputra river from India, and the second is Moskva river of Russia. So this is the collaboration joint initiative of India and Russia. And now if we talk about this Brahmos missile, so remember this is a two-stage missile. It has two stages. The first is solid stage, and the second one is liquid fuel stage, and that is also known as ramjet engine. Remember, ramjet engine is something which uses the motion of this missile for the process of compression. Okay, so there is no rotatory mechanism is required in case of the second stage. It uses the motion of rocket, means linear motion of rocket is being utilized in the second stage of this ramjet engine. So this engine, the disadvantage with this engine is it cannot work at the zero speed. It has to have some speed, and that is the reason why this is generally employed in the second or the third stage of this formation. Okay, the first stage would always be solid stage, the second stage is of liquid stage, and that is nothing but the ramjet engine is there. Okay, now if we talk about the platform from where this can be launched, so remember this is a multi-platform launched capability it has, means this can be launched from air, from land, from sea. Okay, so all versions are there of this Brahmos missile. Now if we talk about this Brahmos missile, this is a cruise missile, supersonic cruise missile. What is supersonic? If it is having the speed of around 3 Mach. Okay, so this is known as supersonic. And if it is having the speed of 5 Mach, so it would be considered as hypersonic. And if it is a speed of less than 1 Mach, so this is known as subsonic, that is around 0.8 Mach. So what this 3 Mach, this Brahmos missile has around 2.8 Mach speed is there. It is 3 times the speed of sound traveling speed. Okay, so this is a supersonic cruise missile. What is cruise missile and what is ballistic missile? If we talk about this one, so let me erase some portion here. So in case of cruise missile, the path of missile would be like this, and this generally travels into the atmosphere of the earth only. But in case of the ballistic missile, the path of missile would be like this one. This will go out through the earth's atmosphere, and then again it will re-enter into the earth's atmosphere. So this is a ballistic path would be there in case of ballistic missiles. These missiles requires initial fuel, right? Initial ignition is required for these fuels, and in the later part of their journey they will use the gravity and their own inertia. Okay, so these are where this initial ignition is required. The second thing is they can travel up to the maximum distances. The third distance we have seen, this path is of parabolic nature, we have seen ballistic nature, and they goes out of the Earth's atmosphere and then again re-enter into the Earth's atmosphere. This is one thing. And because they are of having long range, they need initial ignition, they will be having its own journey after some time because of the gravitational pull and because of their own inertia. They have somewhat less precision in case of targets attacks. Okay, so there is somewhat less precision in case of these ballistic missiles. But when it comes to the cruise missiles, they need fuel continuously. The second thing is they are generally of fire and forget principle. Means once you have locked in the target, then forget about that. This is going to hit that target. The precision would be very high. Precision and accuracy would be very high in case of cruise missiles, and they are generally used for the small distances. So this is about the cruise missile. So remember, Brahmos missile is a cruise missile, and if we talk about the exact range of this Brahmos missile, so that is, let me raise some area, that is of 290 kilometer. Okay, so the range is 290 kilometer for the Brahmos. Although we are now planning to extend that range up to the 600 kilometer or more than 500 kilometer, but earlier we could not have done that thing because let me erase this one. Earlier we were not able to do that thing because we were not the part of MTCR regime, that is Missile Technology Control regime. Okay, so we became the part of this MTCR initiative, that is MTCR initiative, that is Missile Control Technology Regime. So what this MTCR is, we became the part of this MTCR in 2016. This is the informal group of 35 countries. So this restricts, this provides some prohibitions on the missile technology control, especially it provides. So in case of this one, the missile technology and UAV cannot be given to everyone, especially the range of 500 kg of payload missiles and more than 300 kilometer of range are not to be given to other countries. Especially there is some kind of moratorium has been imposed on this one. So this is the reason why India's Brahmos was under 300 kilometer range, that is 290 kilometers range. Now we are the part of this MTCR. Now we can easily extend our limit to more than 300 kilometer, and that is the reason we are also planning to make this Brahmos missile up to 500 or 600 kilometers range also. Okay, so this is the reason. So remember, India is now the part of this MTCR initiative also. This was formed in 1987 by this G7 countries. Okay, so remember this one, that is in 1987. So why this Brahmos missile technology transfer is important for India? We are giving this to Philippines, also some of the other countries like Sri Lanka is also the part of now is also planning to import some of the weapons from India. So India is now becoming the exporter country nowadays in case of the defense equipments. Also Indonesia, Thailand also have shown their interest in Brahmos missiles acquisition. So in case of export, we are now becoming somewhat important as far as global weapons are concerned. Still we are at the very nascent stage, because as per some of the reports, if we talk about a report, that is Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, India is at the 23rd position when it comes to the global weapon export. Okay, and this export forms merely 0.17%. India's weapon exports are merely 0.17% of global weapon export. Okay, so we are at the very nascent stage, but still it is important as far as our Make in India is concerned, as far as our global weapon supply chain is concerned. So this is all about the Brahmos. Okay, Now we come to the next important concept that can be used in your prelims, and that was talked about in our budget. So in this budget, we have government has talked about to setting up 4 plants for coal gasification. Okay, so what is this coal gasification if we talk about? So if we see this one, this is the coal beds. If it becomes very difficult to extract that coal with the help of our technologies, what generally is done, we just do this coal gasification and then we extract this gas from the wells. Okay, so how this gasification takes place? What is the exactly thing? That is, coal is provided with some steam, air and oxygen along with carbon dioxide. So if we will provide such conditions, coal is given some steam and air with oxygen along with some CO2 component, what will happen? In the output we will see syngas. So this syngas is nothing but carbon monoxide and mixture of hydrogen. Okay, this syngas will be developed, and this syngas can be easily utilized in the industries, especially fertilizer industry. Right. The second thing is we can use this one for the chemical industries as well. We can use this one for electricity generation. We can use this one as a fuel also. So there are some advantages of this syngas. Means if you were not able to extract that coal, what was the process? The process can be employed, that is the coal gasification, and this gas is syngas generally, and thus can be utilized indirectly into the fertilizer industry, in the chemical industry, for the electricity generation and in the fuel. Okay, but what is the process is having the concerns related with this process is the formation of this carbon dioxide gas, and thus that is around 2.5 times more when it compared to the coal. Means if the same amount of coal was burned compared to the syngas, the carbon dioxide will be generated more and more in case of the syngas process. After this coal gasification, this CO2 formation would be very heavy one, and CO2 has the potential, that is a greenhouse gas, and that is the concern. This is the one concern. The second concern is now we are making the plants for the coal gasification. If that coal for extraction was not accessible one, not easy, then coal gasification can be done, that is understandable. But what we are doing now, coal which is accessible is now going to be converted into the syngas. This is somewhat which is a less efficient process. The one concern is CO2 generation would be there. The second concern is coal is having high efficiency, burning efficiency, when it compared to the formation of this syngas. So now what we are converting highly efficient fuel to lesser efficient fuel. So this is the second concern which is associated to this coal gasification process itself. So this was all about the coal gasification. I hope you would have now some better understanding about syngas formation and how this coal gasification takes place. Okay. Coming to the next budget, important terms of the budget. Although budget was discussed by our Vivek sir, but still we have some of the some kind of concepts I have taken also in my classes. What we have discussed in the what is being proposed in the budget, that is the virtual asset tax has been proposed now. What are the virtual assets which are not in your hand but virtually you hold them? That is virtual assets. Now there is 30% tax is there. It is a kind of direct tax is there on the gains if you are gaining from virtual assets. Okay, so 30% tax has been proposed, and additionally 1% TDS. For example, if this is a person A, this is a person B. Now if I have sold these assets to B, okay, and I have gained, for example, 100 rupees, so the tax of 30% would be given to the government, that is this virtual asset tax. Okay, if I have gained 100 rupees. Now what if I just gifted these assets to the B, then also 1% of TDS will be applied on my this transfer also. Okay, so this 1% TDS would be charged on this on these transfer of the virtual assets. Okay, and remember this TDS has the concept, that is let me tell you what is the TDS. So in case of this is a person A and this is a person B, this is for example an employer. Okay, this is an employee. So what is employer providing him? The salary, right? And after this salary, some sort of the tax is to be given to the government of India, but this tax will be deducted at this source only. Means this employer would deduct that tax amount and directly credit that one into the government of India's account. Okay, so this is the concept of tax deduction at source only. Now this is important because if government wants to monitor how much money this employee is earning, that can easily be monitored with the help of this TDS. Okay, this is the concept of TDS. So what is now this virtual tax asset tax? We have understood this is 30% tax is being charged, 1% of TDS is there. What is the concept of TDS? We have understood. Now remember, this virtual asset tax has been inserted with the help of clause 47A in IT Act of section 2, okay, of this IT Act. Now any information, code or token which is generated with the help of cryptographic technique. What is cryptographic technique? Let me clear this one also. What is this cryptographic technique? Cryptography is nothing but a decentralized type of the technology. Cryptography is a decentralized technology where this information is stored. After this information, the next information is also stored in this way, and they are the information blocks. Remember, there would be some decentralized computers. Okay, these are the computers, and they will verify this information. Each and every computer, each and every operator will verify this information, and then this will be added into the block, and that will have a serial number also. Okay, this serial number was confirmed by these all decentralized units. Now if you want to change any information on this second block, this is one block, that is second block, now you need to have the permission of these all decentralized things, okay, or decentralized users. It means what? Not only this information is being transferred in serial wise in blocks, but it has to be verified every time if you want to change it, if you want to restore it, everything. Okay, so this is the concept of this cryptography. Okay, remember, this is the decentralized technique. The information is stored in terms of blocks. Okay, so any information, code or token which is having the cryptographic origin or otherwise also, that is considered as a virtual asset. Okay, now if this is being transferred, stored or traded electronically means now you can store that one electronically, because physically you cannot have virtual assets. This is virtual all about. Okay, so they will be termed as virtual assets. Now what is you have to remember is there is an exception, that is Indian and foreign currencies are exempted from the definition of virtual assets. Okay, so what is going to be the virtual asset? There are two conditions. The first thing is the cryptography technique would be the main force behind them. The second thing would be they can be traded, stored in electronic format. Okay, so these are the two conditions. Now further virtual assets will be described by the government of India with the help of any notification. Now the second thing is, what is the difference between virtual tax and the virtual currency? So currency always have a kind of legal backup from the central bank of any country, right? So remember, if a central bank is issuing any currency, maybe it is electronic, maybe it is with the help of this crypto technique, that will come under currency and not under virtual assets. Remember this one. If a central bank is there, even if it is generating any currency with the help of cryptography, that will be the definition of currency, that will not come under the virtual assets. What will be the virtual assets then? So virtual assets, they are not the currencies. Now they can be non-fungible tokens also. What is this non-fungible token? So if we talk about non-fungible tokens, any token, for example, if I am having some of the for example, I am a painter. I'll have some paintings with me. This is 1, 2, 3. They are original paintings. And if I want to sell them out, so what I would do with the help of these virtual tokens, I will generate this serial number for them with the help of cryptography. Means once I'll assign them number. For example, this is the number 1, X, Z, Y, 3, 4, 5 for this painting 1. This information cannot be changed. If you want to change, again you have to follow the cryptography technique. Means all the ledgers which were decentralized, all the users which were decentralized will have to confirm this amendment. It means what? Once I have given this code, that is very difficult to change this code for sure. Okay. Now this painting will have this code, and I want to sell this to some other person. Now I can sell easily with the help of this token number, and the guarantee of this originality will be given with the help of this cryptographic token number. That is nothing but the concept of virtual asset. Now I can sell my asset, that is painting. I can sell my any other art form. I can sell them directly in the format of virtual token number, and the originality guarantee will also be there with the help of this token number, with the help of this cryptography technique. Okay, so this technique is cryptographic in generation, that is with the help of blockchain it is also developed. The second thing is unique identification codes would be there. For example, we have seen 1XZY, this type of the code would be there, and it would be very difficult to change this code one. Okay, so this digital art, images, videos, painting, music, they can be traded easily with the help of these virtual asset token numbers. So this is a non-fungible tokens. Okay, tokens generated, why they are non-fungible? What is the concept of fungible? If we talk about the cryptocurrency, so for example, one cryptocurrency you have, and this is the token. For example, this is one token of cryptocurrency, this is the second token of cryptocurrency. They are easily replaceable or tradable. Means you can easily interchange them. For example, you are going into an auto. This is a hypothetical situation, and cryptocurrencies are the part of our economy. This is the hypothetical situation I am saying. So if you want to give them cryptocurrency, and this is in form of a virtual currency, and if you have the problem with this coin, you can give them another coin that is of the same cryptographic value. Okay, so they are easily reversible. Means if you have 10 rupees note, and if this is not in good position, you can change that with the help of another 10 rupees note. That is fungible, easily reversible. Both have the same value, 10 rupees, 10 rupees. Okay, the same is with the cryptocurrency. They are fungible, means they have the same and equal amount of the value that can easily be replaced. But in case of non-fungible tokens, they are non-fungible because they have the separate values. They cannot be easily replaceable, or this is the main concept behind this non-fungible tokens. Although they are virtual assets, cryptocurrencies are also virtual assets, but they are not same. Cryptocurrencies are fungible in nature, they are non-fungible in nature. That is the difference between non-fungible tokens and fungible cryptocurrency. Okay, so why they are fungible tokens and how they are different from this fungible tokens of cryptocurrencies? These cryptocurrencies are identical to each other, and they can be used as a medium of commercial transaction, and they can be used as a replacement to another coin of the same value. But in case of non-fungible, we have seen that is not possible. Coming to the next important initiative which is discussed in budget, that is the Parvatmala Initiative. What is this Parvatmala Initiative? That is to provide infrastructural support to the difficult terrains or the hilly areas of especially Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, northeast areas. So how we are going to connect them? The connectivity is the major challenge in these areas. So for that we are developing the ropeways. To develop the ropeways, especially in hilly areas, this is the aim of this Parvatmala Initiative. Remember, the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways have been provided the implementation agency would be there, that is the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways. This ministry has been given this power of developing ropeways and other mediums of the transport under amendments of this allocation of business rules of 1961, so that they can work in this direction. Okay, so remember, this one is under Ministry of Road Transport and Highways. They are going to be the agencies to create the infrastructure, to provide the regulatory mechanism for the sector, and all type of other financial and all type of the needs would be fulfilled by the help of this Ministry of Road Transport and Highways. Now come to the areas which are to be covered, that is Uttarakhand, hilly areas generally, Himachal Pradesh, Manipur, Jammu Kashmir and northeastern states. So this is about Parvatmala Initiative. What are going to be the benefits of this Parvatmala Initiative? The first advantage, if we discuss about that one, that is very economic. because one-time capital is required, and that is not that much which is required for the highways creation, 6-lane and 4-lane highways. Only thing is the vertical structures are to be there, and one time of the capital infrastructure is to be provided for this development. So they are very economical one. They are faster medium of travel. Again, they are very environment friendly, because in case of these, we are not going to disturb the topography of that region. Only vertical structures are to be employed, and they are also far away from each other. So this is environmental friendly, or we can say low footprints would be there by these structures, and they will also ensure the last mile connectivity. And if we talk about the benefits, so benefits is we would be able to connect those difficult terrains, right? These are the hilly areas. So here you cannot reach with the help of roads or by the train. So what you can do is you can employ these ropeways in between these hilly areas. So difficult terrains can be covered. Again, we have seen this is economical in nature. They are very flexible, means you can operate them with the optimized condition. You can increase or decrease the load easily. They are very flexible in nature, and they can handle the large transport needs also in these areas. Okay, and we have seen they have the low footprint also, means they are going to pollute this area at a very low footprints would be there. Okay, so this was about the Parvatmala initiative. Remember, this was also discussed in the budget. Next thing that was discussed in the budget, that is PMMVY Yojna, that is Prime Minister's Development Initiative for the Northeast. In the separate lecture, we will cover PM Gati Shakti, and this is Gati Shakti. As of now, we are just going to discuss the basic things. What is our aim is to reach to 5 trillion economy in future. Okay, this is our aim, and for that what we need is infrastructure is something which is very much required. For this infrastructure creation, we have come up with a plan, that is PM Gati Shakti. Okay, so means speed and power both would be there in case of infrastructure development in our country. That is the basic idea of PM Gati Shakti. Under this PM Gati Shakti only, this PM DeVINE has been launched. Now this will create the infrastructure in northeastern region. This infrastructure not limited to the physical infrastructure only. This would also have the social element of infrastructure, means education, health infrastructure will also be created under this PM DeVINE Yojna. Okay, the initial corpus has been given, that is of 1500 crore. What would be the benefits and the objectives of this scheme would be it will provide the livelihood activities, especially to the youth and women of this area, that is of northeast area, and it will also fill the gaps of various sectors. Various different sectors are there, and it will provide the economic impetus to these sectors with the help of this initial corpus of 1500 crore. So this is PM DeVINE Yojna. Remember that one. That is the part of this PM Gati Shakti plan only. Okay. The next initiative is, that is Service E-Health Assistance and Telecommunication, that is SeHAT Initiative. That would also be useful for prelims. Recently SeHAT Initiative was in news. What is it is all about? So if you remember eSanjeevani, so this eSanjeevani was telemedicine help portal. Okay, this is a kind of telemedicine help was to be provided on the telephones, on the video calls. You can actually seek the medical help. This is the concept of eSanjeevani. In the same way, Ministry of Defence has launched this SeHAT initiative for all 3 wings of the armed forces, that is Navy, Army and Air Force. So what they can do is, with the help of this SeHAT, they can actually communicate to the medical professionals with the help of this telecommunication facility. Also, there is a SeHAT OPD portal has been developed. So this will provide basically the medical needs would be fulfilled of these armed forces, that is on the lines of eSanjeevani only. So this was all about today's lecture. I hope that was useful for you. Thank you very much for staying with me throughout the lecture. Thank you.